Hey everybody, what's up? This is Devin LaVore and
Michelle LaVore
coming at ya. And we hope you guys had an awesome Thanksgiving. We did. It's been a great 2 days
Yeah.
off. And, things have still been kind of quiet in the spirit. God's always speaking, but it's been just kind of quiet. Just wondering, like, God, what's going on? What's happening? There's like, because the truth of the matter is, let's just jump right into it. You can get so many prophetic words for yourself. You, God speaking to you, sharing with you, like this is going to happen, that's going to happen, this is me. And it's like you put it through the process, you put it through its paces, you just know it's the Lord. Well, you can get like 89 of those and still be like hearing crickets in your life situation.
Yeah.
And it's just like, and what does that do? That creates such an intense grief and such a longing and such a prepackaged, pre-ordered, pre-delivered disappointment right to your heart. You're just like, you know what, Lord, I know that all these things you've said are from you, but I'm already disappointed that they haven't already happened.
Yeah.
I mean, some of these prophetic things and some of the things that you guys have been believing for, you've received like 20 years ago or 15 years ago or something like that. And some of you maybe have been 4 years, and for you, that's a big deal, a long time, And at the beginning of this year, we went on this journey, and like it's the end of November, and we're like, wow, Lord, you've got literally 1 month to do, to do the things. And for us, it could literally be less than that.
Yeah.
I'm not trying to, but I'm just saying, like, it could be like, so it's just, the bottom line is, like, I'm like, Lord, what is going on, And so the Lord began to share with me this revelation that I'm going to share with you. And that is, we live in the Spirit. Everything, our entire relationship with God is in the Spirit. For God is a spirit, and he seeks those who will worship him in spirit and in truth. I was researching today, and the Bible, my Bible, I read the Amplified Bible, and in my Bible, the word heart is mentioned 994 times, or 96 or 92, something like that. It's very close to 1,000 times. Whereas the word mind is only mentioned 344 times. And I was like, wow, so almost 3 times more is the heart mentioned, and from a scientific perspective, what do we have? We have a heart that has more neurons and more capacity for memory than the brain does. And I just felt like the Lord was creating this distinction, like, it's like you have to live from here, man, not from here, because here will get rid of all your faith. It will get rid of all your believing, because as you're receiving all these visions, your heart is rejoicing. And you're like, Lana Vosser just came out with the word talking about many have entered into the season of reward. And we really felt like that was for us, right? And we were like, yeah, woohoo! Well, that was like, it feels, I mean, I know she just came out with the word, but it feels like that was like 8 years ago.
Yeah.
It was like, we're still here. Like, Lord, so many prophetic things, so many things you've spoken throughout this whole year. And now here we're looking at the end of November, and nothing is happening. I mean, literally nothing is happening. There's no move of the needle. Nothing is shifting. And not only that, but there are some wind and some waves that are still seeming to like wanting to crash in on us. And I'm just like, Lord, what's the deal? And see, that's where your mind kicks in.
Yeah.
Your mind wants to kick in and try to govern and, do things, and it's just like you really can't do that. That's why the Bible says you have to renew your mind.
Yeah.
Every day, because you have to have your mind come into an agreement with what your spirit is saying, because your heart has already agreed with it. And it's like, if you allow your spirit to agree with it, if you allow your heart to agree with it, if you trust in the Lord with all of your heart, lean not on your own understanding. Acknowledge him in all your ways. So it's like when we can acknowledge, like, Lord, I acknowledge that this prophetic word is from you and it is for me. I acknowledge that what you're saying in my life, basically. I acknowledge what you're saying in my life, and I just come into agreement with it. It doesn't make sense, but I'm going to just keep believing you, I mean, because it's like there's the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. What we have to understand is good and evil. The knowledge of good and evil came from the same tree. You know, it's like I was telling Michelle last night. I was like, the Lord, I can have a positive confession that's coming from my mind, and the Holy Spirit will still be like, I don't agree with that. And it's like, what? I'm trying to be positive. He's like, exactly. You're like being positive. That is not the same thing as agreeing with the word. It is not. It's not the same thing. It's like, what have I said, Devin? Come on, let's get back in the gym. What have I said? Well, Lord, you said this and you said that and you said this. And he's like, yeah, And it's like, yes, agree with that. Yeah. I'm like, Lord, but that's insanity. That doesn't make any sense. No, it does not make any sense. But all of your visions don't make sense together. They don't mesh. It's like, how can we be birthing something and then be over here, you know, on the cooling rack, and then be like getting ready to be, you know, I don't know, all kinds of different visions that God gives us. It's like, none of those make sense. And then the Lord's like, well, I didn't travel around preaching to people using the same analogy to describe one place called the kingdom of God, one existence, one reality called the kingdom. I used multiple parables, but it was all true. I was telling the truth, you know, and it's like, you hear from me, so I'm telling you the truth. You can believe in it.
Yeah.
And I felt like the Lord was like, if you trust in me with your heart, I will not fail you. It was a word God gave me. When was that? 5 days ago, a week ago, or something like that. He just said to me plainly, he's like, Devin, I will not fail you. Yeah. And I felt like the Lord said, but if you back away and disengage your heart, you're going to lean on this, and literally the thing that you think you have to do, which is to lean on this to figure everything out and do something rational, do what's right, that is actually what's going to fail you. The thing that you think you have to back up to your secure place and your safe place, because, well, this makes sense and that makes sense. I just know I need to do that. Use some common sense. Yeah, you're not going to fit in the kingdom using common sense.
Yeah.
It's not going to happen. It's like, if you depend on that, then that's going to fail you. I am not going to fail you. If you trust in me, it says it throughout the word all over the place hundreds of times. Like, if you trust in the Lord, he will not disappoint you. He will not let you down. He will not fail you. Old Testament, New Testament, it doesn't matter. You know, we're talking about who God is. He's not a failure. You know, love does not fail. You know? Yeah. Had to take a pause there, just be like, Michelle, do you want to say something? She's like, no, just go ahead. I'm like, okay.
You're doing good.
You're just going to be a prop in this video. So then Michelle was like, you know what you should do? You should share that vision that you had that God gave you, because the other morning, when was it? Well, it was a couple mornings ago?
No, it was actually a few nights ago. It was
during our
God time. And I'm pretty sure it was...
She's talking.
Maybe...
and I'm interrupting.
It was either Monday or Tuesday night during God time that you got just the picture of the...
Wow, it was that long ago? See, time feels like it's like, wow, that was like... Anyway. But what was going on? I think our daughter was super discouraged.
Yeah.
She was super discouraged.
Yeah, she was we were just kind of trying to feel where everybody was at, and
That's right. We were saying, what's going on in your heart? Let's get that stuff out. We don't want to have anything just bottled up in there. God wants to know what's really in there. You know?
So she was just sharing basically that she's been kind of discouraged, you know, because
we're still here.
She's like, I keep praying and we're still here. And it's like, it just doesn't make sense. Like, why is it that we're still here even though we keep praying and keep asking? And
from a 6-year-old.
Yeah. And so Devin basically, he just got this picture of...
It was like a movie in my mind.
Yeah, and it was just this really great picture, which is why I wanted him to share it.
Okay, so... You're awesome. And so, okay, so... Yeah, so I was like, I could relate to what she was going through, and I just got this picture of this kind of older father. It was like he could be grandfather, but he wasn't a grandfather. He was this little girl's dad. And they kind of lived in kind of a meager situation. But the daughter believed that her dad could do anything, right? Mm-hmm. And so one day at the table, sitting at this old Family Dollar table for dinner, the daughter was asking the father, it's like, you know what would be really cool is if we could go to an amusement park, and she's describing this great amusement park type setting and with a fair and carnival and all of that in one, right? And then so he looks at her and he's like, I can do that for you. And so she's like, you can? Whoa! And of course, at the very beginning, she's super excited because she hears the word of her father, hello. And he's saying, I can do that for you. This crazy dream, impossible, weird thing that you want that's just out of this world. It would be crazy if it was real. I could totally do that for you. And so every night, the dad would tuck her to bed, and then he would go over this hill. He would have to cross this river and go over this hill, and he would be gone until morning. And he would come back in the morning, and he would hang out with her. And he's telling her so there's this period of time where he's telling her all this cool stuff that's happening. It's like, oh, okay, I'm putting together the merry-go-round right now. And every time she talks to him, she's excited. But as the time goes on, it's like she's still it's been like seasons now, and he's still not taking her over the hill to the thing that he promised he was working on for her, that he would do for her. And she's growing impatient, she's growing frustrated, and there's all of that, right? And it's like she's sitting at the table sometimes just completely despondent and bummed out. She has nothing to say to her dad. The dad's trying to engage her, and she's asking all of her questions. How long, Dad? I don't understand. Like, why? Why does it... It's like, well, you want me to finish the thing, don't you? It's like, well, yeah, but can't I at least just go see it or something? It's like, nope, you can't do that until I'm done.
Yeah.
You can't do it. You can't see it until I'm done with it. And it's like, ugh. Okay, and so while all of that's happening throughout this long period of time, she's also having to deal with a couple enemies. One of them is her neighbors, right? Was that one of them? The neighbors. The neighbors that were saying negative things about her poor father.
Yeah.
And in those moments where she was maybe a little... emotionally compromised, she would start to believe some of the things that her neighbors were saying. And it was like, what else? Well, there was another one, like her friends, friends would even she'd be walking to school with her friends, and her friends kind of represented like the mind, where the friends would be like, I think you maybe you need to start being more realistic. I don't think your dad is going every night and building you a carnival, amusement park, roller coaster thing. I mean, come on. He's one man. He can't do that, And it's like, and so there's the influence there of like, oh man, maybe you are right.
And then you had because the neighbors that we had, it was like the enemy was on one side, but then like the flesh kind of represented on the other side of just like, look, see, and you have both just screaming at you of like, hey, your dad doesn't know what he's doing. Like, see, nothing's happening. You've never even seen the place, and he keeps telling you about it.
Yeah.
And it's like, and so it was just all these negative things. But what really hit me when you had been talking about it was just the idea that the enemy was screaming out things against her father.
Yeah.
And that just really, really hit me because
it wasn't about her. It was your dad.
It was about her father.
And even the friends were like that. They were trying to help her, but it was like, well, your dad, maybe you need to come to grips with.
Yeah.
It's like
your dad's crazy. Don't, you can't trust him kind of thing. But I guess what really hit me was just the idea that here is the enemy attacking her father, and she was starting to come in agreement with what the enemy was saying about her dad. And I was like...
who she really loves.
Yeah. And I just thought about, the whole thing, like, the picture of how many kids, it's like, well, don't talk about my mother like that. You know, like if somebody were to come against your mom.
Oh, I know you ain't talking about my mama.
Yeah, exactly.
One of those right there.
Yeah.
Are you talking about my mama? Well, hold up. You ain't talking about my mama now.
And so it was just kind of that idea, and I was just thinking like, wow, like to come against the enemy with that same spirit, because it's like, what, you can't be talking about my dad like that. This is my dad you're talking about. I know him. You don't even know him.
Little
like,
Gollum.
How can you be saying these things about him that aren't true? And that just...
Well, because I'm the father of lies. That's just what I do.
Yeah.
You know?
And so it just, that particular part for me just really hit, because it again brought God to really an intimate relationship of a father and a daughter.
Yeah.
So it was just really impactful for me personally to just be reminded that, wow, God is my dad, and I know him. My heart knows him.
Come on now with the heart.
And it's like, I am not going to come into agreement with things that are not matching who God is. And I think, just like you said, that it was the attack against the Father. Mm-hmm. And
through you, because the enemy in that story, or the neighbors or your friends in that story, they weren't at the table. Because see, the table represents that place of intimacy between us and the Father. He wasn't there.
Yeah. It
was when the Father seemed to be away. You know. And so how does the story end? Well, the story ends when the Father takes the little girl over the hill, and she sees this. It was crazy. She sees the dream that she had in her mind was really not. It was nothing. It was more like, well, can you do this and maybe have that, and then maybe have this. And it was like, okay, yeah, I can do that. And that was like maybe that was like 10%.
Yeah.
Of what he actually did. I mean, he created this thing for her that was like, wow. I was like, she was amazed. And she was like, oh, look, that over there. I didn't even ask for that. I totally forgot I even love that. And you have that in there, and it's like, it's awesome. And she was just amazed. It was way, way, way more than she thought it was, than she could even dream.
Yeah.
And of course, that reminds you of Ephesians 3:20.
Yeah.
That he's going to go above and beyond all that we can possibly dream or imagine. So she was just amazed. And it was like and they lived happily ever after. Yeah. That's kind of like how it ended. And it's like, man, and it did make our daughter feel better.
Yeah.
Because she was like, oh, wow. You know, got her going again, you know. So it's like, if you're ever beginning to doubt, it's like Jesus said, you know, if you say to this mountain and you don't doubt in your heart. See, there's a difference between doubting in your heart and doubting in your mind. Your mind, it's almost like your mind's job is to be an accountant. You know what I mean? It's like, oh, these numbers aren't matching up. You know, there's a discrepancy here, and you know, oh, I doubt this. This doesn't make sense. You know, it's almost like a computer. It is a computer.
Yeah.
And so it's like, if things aren't matching up, the brain is naturally going to start to doubt. That's totally different than doubting in your heart. When you doubt in your heart, you say, you know what? This really was not the Lord. I'm done.
Yeah.
I'm moving on. And it's like, oh my gosh, but I've done that. I know I've done that. Really? If you've done that, if you're watching this video, I guarantee you haven't done that, especially if you've made it this far.
Yeah.
You know, it's like, you haven't done that. You might feel like you have, but feeling the truth and actual truth are two totally different things. You might feel that God doesn't love you, but that's not true. You know, you might feel the promise is never going to come to pass, but you know that that's not true. You know, you might feel that you've given up, but you really haven't. You know, if you like that DC Talk song from days of old, you know, when my walk becomes a crawl, well, you're still crawling. You know, God can still work with you. He's not going to snuff you out. If you're just a little glowing ember, he's going to breathe on you. and try to fan the flame and try to get you going again.
Mm-hmm.
You know, that's why he speaks to us prophetically, and just not just prophetically, just why he speaks to our hearts to encourage us,
Mm-hmm.
to communicate to us things that are real, that are true, so that our heart can attach to it.
Yeah.
You know? And so if you feel like the promise is a long way off, man, this is just never going to happen, then it's probably way closer than you think.
Yeah.
You know, and it's like, well, when? How long am I going to have to wait? Well, you're like the little girl in the vision. It's like, well, you're going to have to wait till it's done.
Yeah.
You know, you don't want to get on the roller coaster and die, you know, because it hasn't been tested. And, you know what I'm saying? Yeah. So, I mean, I think you guys kind of get the gist of the vision there. And it's just like, you just have to wait for the Lord. And something that the Lord shared with me, I think that was just last night, where he was saying, like, your waiting is not in vain.
Yeah.
He reminded me of that scripture. I think it's 1 Corinthians 15:58, I think it is. Anyway, it says, your labor in the Lord is not in vain. Well, I feel like the Lord's saying for a lot of us, our waiting on him, you know, is the labor that we've been engaged in. Because it's the significant thing in the spirit that we've been doing is waiting. And he was like, your labor in the Lord is not in vain. And it was like labor and waiting were the same, were kind of meshed together in my mind. It was like your labor, your waiting is not in vain. And it's like you will, God, I felt like the Lord said that to me also. It was like, I will fulfill.
Yeah.
It was like, I'm not going to fail you. And then his most recent word to me was like, I will fulfill. And it's like, what happens when Jesus was speaking to the two disciples on the road to Emmaus? It says they were like, and then after Jesus broke the bread and, go ahead, buddy. After Jesus broke the bread and then disappeared right in front of them, and they were like, oh, we knew it was him. We knew it. Were not our hearts burning within us? See, it wasn't their minds that were burning. It was their hearts. So when we hear from the Lord, we just let our hearts burn, you know? Let that eternal flame in the temple not go out. Let your zeal for the Lord always be burning, you know, even if it's a little bitty ember. And, well, God will come in and he'll turn it, you know, and just whoosh, it'll come up again. Yeah. You know what I mean? And it's like we can get that from getting in the Word and all that. But, you know, the battle is real.
It is.
The things that come against us and make us feel mopey and emotional, those things are real, you know. But that doesn't necessarily mean it has to affect our heart to the place where we just give up and we just lay around in depression and despondency.
Yeah.
We don't have to. But even if we do that, God is faithful to come along and say, hey, come on. I remember before I met her, I was completely depressed. I started this journey to try to find a wife in November. I started with eHarmony, and I was sure I was going to find a wife in a week. And about 3 months went by, and I was totally bummed out. I was like, oh man, this is a bummer. This isn't working out. But whatever, I can get up and I can keep going. I know how to do that. And so I got on Match.com, right? And went through that whole thing. Things were just not working out. I mean, I'm looking at June, okay? June. This is going on way longer than I ever imagined it would go on. But it was just like, this is pointless. Like, I'm going to be single for the rest of my life, and I'm going to be miserable, Lord. I'm telling you I'm going to be miserable because it's just the truth. I'm telling you the reality of the situation. Yeah. I'm going to be miserable, and I got no options. You know what I mean? No one's interested in me, which was stirring up some heart stuff, too, about me personally, and I was just like, I'm just not, you know, all these negative things about myself. And so I'm just laying up in my bed, going throughout my day depressed for like 2 days. And then I wake up on the third day, I wake up and I just see the Lord. And it's just so clear of a vision, it could have been real. He's sitting on the edge of my bed, and he turns around and looks at me. He kind of turns back like that, and he was like, are you done? Kind of Medea style. You know what I mean? He's like, are you done? Because we need to do this thing, man. Because see, in God's heart, his heart doesn't give up.
No.
He's all about fulfilling. He's like, I want you to pursue. I want to give you a wife, but you're going to have to pursue it in that particular situation. And this situation is totally different. But it's like, he was like, come on, I'm ready. I'm ready to go. You can lay down there and be despondent all you want, but I'm ready to do this thing, you know? And I'm like, okay, at your word, Lord, I'll do it. And Ta-ching. So it's like the fulfillment is there. God's like, I will fulfill, you know? I'm going to grab you by the hand. I'm going to take you over the hill. And it wasn't a battle hill.
Yeah.
It was I'm taking you over the hill, and it's time for me to show you. And it's like, whoa, this is amazing. Way more than I thought. You know, that God is about fulfillment. If he gives you a promise, he is not going to fail it.
Yeah.
Because that says something about him. And he's never not fulfilled a promise.
Yeah.
You know? Never.
And like you said, it goes back to love doesn't fail. And
Right.
God is love.
Right.
And so it's like he can't fail. And
Yeah.
so I just think that's awesome.
That is awesome. God is awesome.
So I figure I'll wrap it up since I didn't have too many words in this video. I gotta up my word count.
I was trying.
No, it's just it was just one of those days where you had most of the revelation,
yeah.
I definitely gleaned a lot from it, but not necessarily anything to vocalize or share. But basically, we just hope that you guys are really encouraged with even in the waiting. You know, be encouraged in the waiting. That it's not in vain, that God really does love you. He has a plan and purpose in place, and he is walking that purpose and plan out. And again, like something God told me a long time ago is like, he's like, let me unfold things. And when he is unfolding things, you can't see what that next fold is going to reveal.
It's over the hill.
And it really is. It's over the hill. You can't see it. But just walk by faith and say, Lord, I'm going to continue to go to you. I'm going to continue to trust you in this. And he's going to continue to unfold things. And so we just hope that you guys are just blessed, that God continues just to speak to each of you individually, and that, I don't know, just
he
that
is
you...
about fulfillment.
Yeah, that he is about fulfillment, that he really, really loves us. And it's really, I think that's what he's trying to get people to understand too, is just how much he loves us. And everything is just going to be perfect. His timing is perfect. And so, yeah, until next time, guys, we'll see you later.
Bye-bye, guys. Love ya.